I'd like now to recognize my friend from New York, Ms. Stefanik.
Thank you very much, Congressman Owens. Dr. Goldfarb, in our ongoing investigation of higher ed institutions and the increase of anti-Semitism that is on display at Harvard, Penn, MIT, the three schools we had here, but beyond that, throughout colleges and universities, one theme that is very concerning to me is the offices of DEI on these college campuses are inherently anti-Semitic. And I'll give you an example from my alma mater, Harvard. Even prior to the October 7th Hamas attacks against Israel and the failure of Harvard's leadership to protect Jewish students on campus, hundreds of Jewish students reached out to Harvard's Office of DEI, raising concerns about the rise of anti-Semitism, and they did not even receive a single response from the Office of DEI. So can you comment? I know that you've watched, as a former dean of Penn's med school, you watch what's happening on that campus, but can you talk to me about how these offices of DEI fuel this increase in anti-Semitism?
Yeah, we've written about it, and Dr. Green here has written about this quite extensively as well. I think the point is that once you start dealing with this identity politics, once you start thinking about people as members of groups, he's pointed out how Jews suddenly become the oppressor simply because of their prominence in these academic institutions. Once identity politics takes over, then one of the natural consequences of it is divisiveness and antagonism between groups, because now we're putting people into these groups. Yascha Mounk has recently written about this in his book, The Identity Trap, and points out, as a man of the left, what a great concern this is for American life. And I think what we're seeing in the anti-Semitism that's really sprung up terribly in the last few months has been the natural outcome of thinking about people as members of a group rather than thinking about people as individuals. And I think in medical school, in colleges and undergraduates, that's what we're seeing. I think these students have decided that are parading and demonstrating this anti-Semitic sentiment. They see the Jewish students as members of a group, not as individuals, not as their friends, not as their co-students, but as members of a group. And once you go down that path, this is the consequence of it. This is why it's so divisive in America.
And Dr. Green, would you like to answer the question as well?
Sure. I mean, I agree entirely with Dr. Goldfarb's comments, and just say that we've systematically measured this. I mean, in a study we did of 741 DEI officers, we examined their social media, Twitter feeds, and we observed shocking levels of anti-Semitism coming from people with a professional obligation not to do that. It's as if we studied doctors and found that they were smokers, right? It would be not something you'd expect from people in an occupation. And yet, DEI staff are active promoters of anti-Semitism in their social media feeds. And it's not surprising that they also facilitate it on campus.
Thank you. Yield back.